Have you ever wished that you could see the promo or a trailer of a movie or a show and tell if it's full of BS? I'm Sudhish Kamath and this is FOMO FIX, your personal BS detector to plan your weekly viewing. This week on Hype Check, I look at the lavishly produced The Royals that promises guilty pleasures. But let's talk about what it should really be guilty about. In TV Gold, the OG BS detector is back on Poker Face, the Rian Johnson created show. On Heads Up, I have the verdict on John Abraham's The Diplomat, now streaming on Netflix, TVF's Chikitsalay, which might appeal to Panchayat fans, and finally Vadakkan, the technically sound Malayalam horror thriller that loses its way in Kantara territory. Let's get to it. The Royals has been trending on Netflix and open to some savage reviews, and the best thing people could say about it is that it never claimed to be anything apart from a guilty pleasure modern day fairy tale. But is it really that harmless? The Royals, starring Ishan Khattar, Bhumi Pednekar, Sakshi Tanwar and a super fun cameo by Zeenat Aman, is the kind of show that hopes to ride the algo wave. If you liked Bridgerton or The Crown, you might like this. Not quite. While those shows look at the past and attempt to right some wrongs, this one is stuck in the present and still romanticizing royalty like it's 1850. The Royals celebrates the rich, excuses their flaws because poor rich people are people too, aren't they? Instead of slapping the privilege out of their faces, it hands them a tiara. Now here's a more honest title for this show. The Good Old Slave Owners. A cutesy rom-com about falling in love with royalty, accepting their quirks, and whitewashing centuries of privilege and entitlement. A more honest segment for this title would be... Yes, The Royals is so tone deaf, it reeks of privilege and isn't so in love with the royal way of life that it wants to sell tickets to the commoner to come and live the royal life. Not the dream we should be selling, except maybe Ishan Khattar's abs, but the systemic rot of oppression as a way of life that we must be addressing. While the world has moved on to eat the rich narratives, here's a show so wannabe, it will make you cringe and have second-hand embarrassment for all the fantastic talent involved and completely wasted in this flaky, exploitative, sex-crazed show that is clueless about love or romance for all its claims of being a rom-com. If The Crown was a history lesson and Bridgerton was a fantasy, The Royals is that drunk friend who thinks they're both. It's so dated, even boomers would swipe left. My heart goes out to Bhumi Pednekar, who tries her best to sell this half-baked part, but we can only hope she got paid enough to buy a palace. Binge only if cringe is your idea of entertainment, or to watch Zeenat Aman get stoned and zone out of all the nonsense unfolding around her. One of my favorite guilty pleasures is back for a second season, and I watched all the 3 episodes of Poker Face that dropped on JioStar. Happy to report the show still has its smarts. Poker Face, created by Rian Johnson, is about a woman on the run from the mob, solving crimes at every stop around America. So despite a loose season arc, every episode in the series is about a murder. In most cases, we know who did it and what they did to get away until our heroine Charlie Cale, played by Natasha Lyonne, enters that world armed with a unique ability to tell when someone's lying and uses this gift to solve the crime. I call it a guilty pleasure because the murder-solving show is a comedy, uses pulp elements to suspend disbelief, often goes over the top to make stories more exciting, and refuses to play it down for realism. Also, considering that every episode has a different backdrop, the show straddles quite a few worlds and yet feels seamless, thanks to the powerhouse performance by Natasha Lyonne. This season begins with a delightfully fun murder case involving not just twins but quintuplets, 5 identical sisters who have been playing each other since they were kids as stars of a TV show. The second episode, set in a funeral home turned movie set for a murder scene, stars Giancarlo Esposito as a mortician who uses the film unit to cover up a real murder. And the third one sees the return of a very familiar face from season 1. I'm not going to ruin it for you. Packed with some really cool cameos, Poker Face delivers on the promise of solving murders with smarts through all the twists it keeps surprising us with. That it's a pop culture loving show makes you suspend all your disbelief and cheer for the leading lady through all her adventures on the run. If you missed season 1, no better time to catch up because there's a new episode out on JioStar every Wednesday. If like me you had missed the John Abraham starrer The Diplomat at the cinemas, it's out on Netflix and surprises with considerable restraint. With the onslaught of propaganda films, it's easy to confuse this Shivam Nair directed film as another attempt at chest-thumping jingoism, but that's exactly what it's not. When everyone around is warmongering, The Diplomat, loosely based on a real event, is probably the film to watch this season, for it reminds us of the role of diplomacy in avoiding escalation. And John Abraham powers through it without beating up anyone, suited up with just smarts and resolve. Also, it's so good to see veteran actress Revati play the late Sushma Swaraj, who we know is the only minister for sure who would personally take a call in the middle of the night to come to the aid of an Indian citizen stranded abroad. So give diplomacy and The Diplomat a chance and you might just like it. For Panchayat fans, TVF has dropped its new show Gram Chikitsalay on Prime Video, but it's only half as good despite having compelling characters, since it takes a whole season to get to the starting point. A lot of characters are set up, but only a few of these subplots actually get tied up by the end, that it feels like the midpoint of the first season or half a season than a whole installment. If you're missing the crazy bunch from Panchayat, do give this a shot. My final reco for this week comes with a few strings attached. The Malayalam film Vadakkan is such a fresh horror film, technically sound and truly world class, thanks to Resul Pukutti handling sound and Kiko Nakahara's cinematography. While the setup of horror in a reality show is so promising and original, the film loses its way in the second half, venturing into Kantara territory. While its metaphorical messaging and symbolism do make sense, the payoffs aren't entirely convincing. Vadakkan is rated over 8 on 10 on IMDb, so you might just like it more than I did. Before I go, here's your reminder that the new Tom Cruise Mission Impossible movie is releasing in India a whole week before the world. So don't forget to book your tickets for this weekend. We're going to hype check it next week. Until then, this is Sudhish Kamath signing off from FOMO FIX from my home studio for The Hindu. In Tom we trust.